LinkedIn testimonials. That's an interesting one. Make the LinkedIn testimonials qualitative. So asking someone to recommend you and it's just because you're a good person, or, there's nothing, we have them, but we always want recommendations that can show what we've done and what we've achieved, so I think I would say they have to be quite specific, otherwise it's just it just looks like mutual back scratching potentially. That's what I think on that.
I would agree with that. There's a good question here from an anonymous user about CSO roles and how they get filled. I mean, personally, I think any role gets filled in a certain a number of ways. CSOs, it's very much down to how the company does things, really. We do see roles where someone is leaving and they recommend someone they used to work with, but on the flip side of that, you see they've had a CSO who hasn't done a great job, so they want to avoid a similar background. Some companies love people straight out of government, so they will actively target people in the US out of a 3-letter agency, out of the bureau, out of the CIA, whatever. You do get roles coming to recruiters, whether it be niche recruiters like us, or sometimes if it's a FTSE 100, Fortune 500 type of firm, quite often they'll go to a what's known as a Shrek firm. Corn Ferry, Russell Reynolds, can't remember the others, Egon Zehnder,
Spencer Stewart, Hydrix, Russell Reynolds, Zehnder, Corn Ferry.
Yes, so they will go to a big search firm who has probably found a CFO or a CEO for them before, and now they'll go to them for a CSO. And those guys don't, they don't have intimate knowledge of the sector like we do. And frankly, although they charge an absolute fortune, the reality is they're just doing Boolean searches on LinkedIn a lot of the time and asking for recommendations. So again, getting your LinkedIn profile is really important. But some people on here will know, there's an association called ISMA, which is like the probably the bluest of all blue chip security associations, and lots of jobs get circulated in forums like that. So you will get other CSOs applying because they see a new job coming out with an interesting firm. So there's no
dark art to it, right, Chris? That's what people get a bit confused about, whether you're a Shrek or a challenger search brand, or you're an internal recruiter, or you're. We see CSO roles placed on LinkedIn. There was one, I think Glencore, but they had a CSO. I think it was Glencore. But I've seen CSO roles on LinkedIn. So that's really interesting to me, because you always used to be LinkedIn is not for senior roles, and now it is. So I think if you're it presents the same problem every single time, as Chris said. Are you going to be able to be found? And there's no good. It's no good to go, okay, I'm going to be found because I'm looking for a job today. Get it squared away, and if you're not looking, be a strong passive candidate. Fade into the background. Make sure everything's front and center. Make sure you take calls from people like me and Chris or whoever, and have that conversation. Just take control. But if you can't be found, I hate plugging LinkedIn because it costs me a fortune in so many ways. But it's a reality. If you're not being found, you're going to miss a huge amount of opportunity, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the other thing to say as well is if you're already a CSO, I would hope that you're doing some kind of networking with your peers at that kind of level. If you're the step below, or you're looking to become a CSO, the people you need to network with are CSOs. So, BP and Shell and Chevron and Conoco are competing, but all their security guys are talking all the time, and they're in, associations and groups and whatever. So if you're looking to become a CSO in the oil sector, talk to the CSO at BP and Chevron and Shell and wherever, because they will hear when their competitor firms are looking to hire someone. They might apply themselves. They may not want to go for it, and they will think, you know, I had a chat with a really interesting guy or girl recently, and, you know, want to suggest that they apply for that job, and they'll quite often put a good word in for you as well. So think about where you want to be and network at that level. If you want to, you know, if you're a country guy who wants to become a regional guy, talk to regional guys, talk to CSOs, always talk above the level you're at.
Got the first conversions question.
Oh,
It's a myth.
It's a myth.
It's a myth. It's really interesting. So that was tongue in cheek. So it's how many conversion roles have we seen, hands on heart, in the last 10 years? One last year, like genuinely converged. So, and I know that clearly they exist. I'm being tried, but how many genuinely converged roles are there? Just don't see any. And I've sat in conferences for 10 years that people have been talking about it, if not 15 years. So I think, and that's not quite the question, but if you are a corporate security professional and you have cybersecurity qualifications, that is a pathway. I think that's a path. That's because we are going to end up there eventually. It's a bit of a power struggle, isn't it? Right? But we are going to end up there. Maybe not in my lifetime, but we are going to end up there eventually. So I think they're additive.
Yeah, and I think
additive.
Also, I think cyber and corporate security are working closer and closer together, even if they're not actually kind of converged. So having an understanding of what your cyber peers are talking about is really important. And we are seeing people that are from the corporate side that are getting snaffled over to the cyber side occasionally. So, you know, if you have a good understanding and you can show that through qualifications, you can demonstrate within your business that you know what you're talking about and you can interact in the cyber world, say, we are seeing people move over. And frankly, the cyber world pays better. So, you know, if you're interested in moving into that space, and so, you know, you're probably not going to be a real techie cyber person. You come with kind of, you know, broader management skills and an understanding. But yeah, people do move, and we do see, you know, the odd person who's moved from a, you know, reasonably senior corporate security role into a CISO role that maybe has corporate security under it. So,
and I really don't want to see James Butler says convergence is a myth on LinkedIn.
Chatham House.
For the record, yeah, Chatham House and all that sort of thing. There was a question there about manager position. Where are we going? We go back to Susanna. Let's go.
Do Susanna and then go to that one. So,
perspective on the potential.
Susanna, I would say, may not be every company, but almost every company we deal with these days wants a diverse shortlist of candidates. So companies are very geared towards, you know, getting faces in their corporate security teams that are not, frankly, old white blokes, of which there are many, including us too. So I think that is a real positive. I think the challenge is that, well, there are many challenges, but there are two main challenges I see. Security is still a kind of second career. So people are either ex-military, police, or spooks a lot of the time. And in most of that kind of formal government backgrounds, it's quite male heavy. So unless companies start looking further afield, and there are definitely companies that are doing that now, or they look at Intel analysts who have kind of gone the university route and are very diverse, and then kind of hold their hand and show them the ropes in kind of broader security roles, then that is going to be a challenge. And I think the other, this is, I can't remember the stats, and so I'm going to make some up, but it's a bit of a cliche, but it is kind of true. I think if you put a job advert out, and a man reads that advert, if they can do like 50% of it, they'll think, sod it, I'll chuck an application in and see how I get on. If a female reads it, she won't have the same random made up confidence that the guys will. If she's not hitting like 80, 90%, she won't apply.
Yeah.
when we have companies, sorry, James, when we have companies where they want a diverse shortlist or a 50-50 shortlist, or occasionally even a 100%, female for shortlist, we proactively have to go out and tap people on the shoulder and say, here's a great job, you look really well suited, let's have a chat about it. Because I think women are a lot more reticent in applying. Blokes are just like, yeah, be fine, let's just go for it. So, but
companies have to have the courage of their convictions with this, right? Like they have to. So there's no good. We can't keep replicating the same job descriptions from 15 years. It's the definition of madness, isn't it? Right? The same job descriptions, and we see the same job descriptions sometimes, just being regurgitated. The fact is that female candidates are underrepresented in the market, but because they're underrepresented at leadership level, arguably in the public sector, which is where the profession draws their candidate base from, as Chris said. So we can't just keep doing the same thing and expecting the same result, right? We need to create inclusive environments. It's not just about creating diverse shortlists. It's the whole being invited to the party and being asked to dance thing, right? You can't just say we need diverse shortlists. Brilliant, thanks very much. We'll just hire that. The companies have to do more. They have to change job descriptions. They have to make sure that they are they accommodate diverse candidates. And some companies are absolutely fantastic at it. Right? Going to hire the best person, of course, but we're gonna drive and make and demand that our security function looks like our company. Right? Yeah, looks like the rake of our company. So yeah.
Were you talking about the manager versus individual contributor?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one to me. That so typically people move into manager as they progress in the career. I think the individual contributor can create a fantastic career for themselves. You can't. This business has gone, or this profession in my lifetime has gone full, almost about face. So we've gone from, I'm the son of a typical flying squad, East End policeman, proper old Bill, as we were saying in Essex, right? Really old school. And his generation, and probably the generation or two after that, was within 30 years and that's it. And I'm going to come out and do 10 years in the private sector. That was it. And it's only to a generation now, one before, that people are doing 10 years or less, and then come in, and then we've got 30 years in the private sector. So what was previously very linear, where I'd come out, I'd get to whatever I got to in wherever I'm in, be it the police, the military, whatever, and I'm going to do a regional job and a CSO job, or I'll do one regional job and another regional job, 2 jobs, 10 years, 60, 2 pensions, life's good, I'm off. Now we're entering at 30, 27, 28, 29, getting to Meager, whatever I'm getting to, I'm going to come out because it's a big world. And there are so many amazing examples of people that have come out after 7 or 8 years of the public sector. It's not linear. So don't get focused on being a manager. People are a pain, right? Like, don't get focused on being a manager. Focus on gaining quality experience in markets. Because I know CSOs that have one person, people can get really hung up on management and leadership, and sometimes that's off-putting as well to organizations. We have candidates that come from say the military, where they used to they have 1,000 people, and organizations say you don't have 1,000 people, you've got to make it work yourself. Like, there's no it's the classic interview question. You keep saying we, like, what have you done? It's the biggest. So don't get hung up on the. There's loads of space to progress as the individual contributor, as part of a collective team, in my opinion.
You also, if you spend a long time in one company, you'll probably become, unless you're awful, I assume they'll probably eject you at some point, but you'll become a manager at some point. Just because you stay somewhere doesn't actually make you a good manager. So quite often managers are not great at managing. Being a manager is not the be all and end all, and it's an assumed skill, isn't it? You do well in one role, they push you up the ladder, you become a manager. You don't get management training quite often. So yeah, being good at what you're good at is not a bad thing at times, and really focusing on that.